What is going on, Los Angeles Dodger fans? Hope everyone's hanging in there. Your Los Angeles Dodgers have fallen. Once again, fourth game in a row. They're now 29 and 19, 10 games above 500. You can't complain, but we are going to complain. You are listening to the Klein Dodgers podcast presented by TickPick and FanSided. Dodgers fall to the Arizona Diamondbacks in the first game of the series this evening, 9-5. Jake Reiner, the story once again for the Dodgers appears to be the pitching. They've been in shambles. You can factor it to the injuries because they've been a huge blow, maybe as bad as ever for the Dodgers, but the guys on the field at the end of the day aren't getting the job done. Landon Knack, just another example. Let me pass the torch over to you.
We've seen this formula a lot this season where the Dodgers offense puts up a lot of numbers, but doesn't end up resulting in wins because either the pitching staff puts them in such a deficit that they can't climb out of, or they end up chipping away and getting close enough, and the bullpen makes the deficit even larger and thus insurmountable once again. And it is very frustrating to watch. Now, they are still in first place in the division, so context matters here. And also the context matters when we're talking about injuries too. There are a ton of injuries to this pitching staff, more than I've seen in quite some time. It's not just the starting rotation, but it's the bullpen as well. And the guys that they're trotting out there are just not getting the job done. Outside of Yoshinobu Yamamoto, nobody has been particularly great this year. Everyone has had bad starts. The bullpen has been atrocious lately, losing to really bad teams like the Angels, giving up a ton of runs. And the Diamondbacks have just owned us this year. Their offense just owns our pitching staff so far this year. A very, very frustrating stretch. And if you take a look at the upcoming schedule, it could get a lot worse for this team if the guys that they have on the pitching staff don't step up, because we're not getting reinforcements injury-wise for a long time.
Since that 8-0 start, the Dodgers have basically been a 500 team, like 21 and 19 the last 40 games. So you throw out, you got to thank that 8-0 start. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in first place. They're only a half game up on the San Diego Padres right now, and it's not like the Arizona Diamondbacks and the San Francisco Giants are that far behind the Dodgers. So we've been playing kind of mediocre, but the way the pitching has performed, there really is no reason to be optimistic right now until the Tyler Glasnows, until the Blake Snells, and maybe even Roki Sasaki turns his season around, because we've got Yoshinobu Yamamoto, like you just said, and then honestly a bunch of 5s or 4s. Dustin May pitching like a 5. Tony Gonsolin pitching like a 4. Landon Knack pitching like a 6 or a 7. He was awful tonight. More on him in a second. And then you got some bullpen games thrown in there. And then Clayton Kershaw, who, of course, we'll talk about Clayton Kershaw, who made his 2025 debut. But we'll go more in depth on Clayton Kershaw later in this show. We'll talk about Chris Taylor, Austin Barnes, of course. Appreciate everyone coming in and tuning in right now. Hit that like button, and if you got questions for us, go ahead and drop questions. We'll prioritize super chats, though, because we have a ton of content to cover. So he wasn't the starter technically. He came out of the bullpen, but he was the bulk guy tonight. Landon Knack just did not have it for the Dodgers, and he really hasn't had it for the Dodgers all season long. He's got a 6.17 ERA on the season, gave up two-run home runs in that second inning, I believe, for the Dodgers, and was it Gabriel Moreno and Lourdes Gurriel took him deep, and that was pretty much felt like the ball game at that point. Knack just did not have it tonight.
He didn't have it, but I will give him credit for pitching as long as he did in this game, and to his credit, he also settled down and didn't give up any more runs outside of those 4 that he gave up kind of immediately. So there is that, but when you're in a 3-0 hole already, you can't put the game out of reach like this, especially with a divisional game like this. The Dodgers coming off a 3-game sweep of the Angels, which was atrocious. This needed to be a kind of right the ship moment, but it's tough when you're having to resort to bullpen games and guys that just you don't want out there. It's like they used Luis Garcia in the Angels series 3 games in a row in high leverage. That guy should be nowhere near a high leverage situation. So Dave Roberts is kind of handcuffed at this point with this pitching staff, and it's very unfortunate. And it's also tough to watch games where the offense just has to do this heavy lift every night. And to their credit, they've been pretty damn good this year. And I've been very impressed with the runs that they've been able to put up in these games. But it is just downright disrespectful right now what the pitching is doing and putting this team in such a deficit. It's impossible to win games this way. It just is.
The only positives I can take away from tonight, and then we could pretty much throw this game in the garbage. Mookie Betts had 2 home runs, so maybe that's the start of something for Mookie Betts. He's up to 8 home runs now in 2025. Shohei Ohtani got his 17th home run, and then Tommy Edman, fresh off the IL, he got an RBI base hit, and with Teoscar Hernandez back in the Dodgers lineup, give him another game or two, and he'll get into a rhythm. But of course, getting Teoscar and Edman back in this Dodgers lineup, at least that's the one positive. They're at full strength right now. There isn't anyone relevant on the injured list. So maybe the offense can carry for a few games, because with who they're throwing out there, pitchers-wise, it's a really tough scene, especially in that bullpen too. But I'll hold my thoughts on the bullpen maybe a little bit later on when we kind of go back to this Angel series, which we're about to recap. Anything else?
Yeah, just disgusting to watch, and honestly, like I don't know what they do at this point. I mean, we're going to get into the Chris Taylor and Austin Barnes moves, which I am fully in support of. But all this talk about the offense and getting back Edman and Teoscar Hernandez, that's all great, but that was not the issue. I mean, the issue is that they just don't have enough. They don't have enough pitching. And, talk about the deadline, coming up in July. They're going to have to pick up multiple pitchers. It's not just like going after one starter at the deadline is going to suffice, or one bullpen arm. It's like they've got to retool this entire pitching staff, which I don't know if it's possible. So you got to hope that some of these guys come back from injury, and not just that, but are effective when they come back. It's a weird spot to be in, because the team is in first place. So it's kind of a weird thing to kind of complain about, but this is not sustainable, obviously.
But for how much longer can they be in first place? That's the reality. It's only
the division is much tougher this year than it has been. I mean, they've got good teams right behind them. So they can't sustain this much longer.
Yeah, the one good news is that Michael Kopech is close, but not close enough. He's at least 3 more rehab outings away from being considered back to the majors, which makes sense because he didn't have a spring training. So I imagine the Dodgers did want to ease him in and just not throw him right into the fire. So I'm fine with that. I want to focus on, must have been Saturday's game, since it was May 17th. The Dodgers lose to the Angels 11-9. So this was the middle game of the series. This is the game Kershaw started, so we'll save the best for last. But the Dodgers had a good chance to win this game. I mean, Kershaw gave up 5 runs, but then Kasparius gave up 2 runs. Kirby Yates blew the game. He gave up 3 runs. And then at the end of the day, Alex Vesia gave up a run. This was a game Kirby Yates could not afford to blow. And kind of what a disappointing season it's kind of turning into for Kirby Yates. He's up to a 4.34 ERA, 2 blown saves, and then he goes on the injured list with that hamstring injury. So, he's out at least a minimum of 15 days, could be longer. I don't know what happened to Kirby Yates this season, though. He just does not look like the same guy.
I know. But Kirby Yates was like a late off-season addition to where you thought, a really good high leverage reliever to add to this already stacked bullpen, but you lose Phillips, you lose Trinan, Brusdar Graterol is nowhere to be found, Kopech is hurt. All these guys are just not available. And now Kirby Yates is on the IL. Just like every day, it keeps getting worse for this team. And I don't know what the hell is going on with this organization, because they are elite at pretty much every single level that you can think of when you talk about a really well-run organization. But for some reason, they can't keep anybody healthy on the mound. And I don't get it. We never get any explanation about this. There's never any reasoning behind it. We don't know. I mean, obviously we're not in the organization. We don't know what goes on behind closed doors, but something has to change. They got to figure this out, because they can't keep doing this every season with these guys. And that game specifically ruined like an all-time game from Dalton Rushing, who just got called up. Like, he had some huge knocks, some huge RBIs in that game, and pitching staff just could not keep the Angels off the scoreboard. And that is, and they've got one of the worst offenses in baseball.
That's the main point right there. They were coming and struggling. Taylor Ward was having a pretty rough season, and then he woke up facing the Dodgers, then homered in, I think, 2 consecutive games. They just couldn't keep the Angels off the board, and it was baffling. I didn't understand what happened on Saturday. It was a great game from Freddie Freeman. He had 4 hits. Andy Pages had a home run. He's up to 9 home runs. You mentioned Dalton Rushing, so we'll focus more on Dalton Rushing when we kind of talk about why it makes sense that he took Austin Barnes' spot on the roster. But yeah, I've never seen anything like this, and maybe we're exaggerating, but I feel like we're not, in terms of the Dodgers' injuries on the pitching staff. Like, almost every high leverage reliever they've got now is on the injured list, and you're literally seeing random dudes come off the scrap heap. Like, we saw Noah Davis throw a high leverage. We saw JP Fireisen come back from the dead, throw a high leverage. They brought in Lou Trevino, who was having a really rough go with his last few teams, like the Yankees and the Giants. But maybe they found something in Lou Trevino.
Who is this Lotus guy, this White Lotus guy? I don't know who the hell he is. I mean, it's just like, every day Matt Sauer's coming out of the pen and giving up runs. And it's crazy. They had that guy Gomez who couldn't hack it. He couldn't even perform in a mop-up role. And I see a lot of people in the chat talking about, oh, we miss Jack Flaherty. Well, Flaherty's not having that great of a year. He's 2-5 with a 4.44 ERA. But I guess the best thing about him is that he actually is available, unlike the rest of these guys that aren't.
He'd be our number 2 right now,
easily.
That's hindsight, though. I mean, you can't foresee all these injuries. Like, Blake Snell never had a significant injury like this. Roki Sasaki, we thought he was healthy when they signed him, but maybe he wasn't the whole time. That's a Bob Nightingale little piece that, if we have time, we'll go back to that. And then, yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, it sucks getting swept by the Angels. I don't know what else to say, but it was ugly. Anything else at a high level you want to talk about? Otherwise, I'm ready to jump into Clayton Kershaw.
Yeah, I'm ready to jump into Kershaw too. But the one note that I thought about watching that Angels series, it felt a lot like that Cubs series that we had in Wrigley, where the offense was just clicking on all cylinders, and the pitching couldn't hold anything. Literally could not keep anybody off the scoreboard. And it's just impossible to win games. I mean, you think about how many more games the Dodgers could have and should have won this year. They would be by far the best team in baseball. It wouldn't even be close right now with all of those runs that they put up. So it is maddening to watch a team that obviously has the potential to win more games and should, And even with all of that, they still are in first place, which is kind of insane.
Appreciate everyone tuning in. Hit that like button. So Kershaw made his 2025 debut in the game we were just discussing. The one good thing is that the Dodgers kind of needed Clayton Kershaw because they need innings eaters at this point. And I was surprised he kind of missed the bare minimum of the 60-day IL. So I give him props for coming back. But where I'm going to get into things now is that first start by Clayton Kershaw outside of the 2023 NLDS Game 1, which is like the absolute floor. You can't get worse than that. That game on Saturday was maybe the second worst I've ever seen Clayton Kershaw look in his entire career. I know he was coming off the injuries and he hasn't had a spring training, so I'll give him a pass there. But just from the stuff standpoint, it was not good stuff. He hit 91 a couple times, but usually his fastball was hovering around 88 miles per hour. He had no command of the curveball. The slider was effective overall enough, but at the end of the day, it was the Angels, so I'm not moved. But he struggled against the Angels. He gave up 5 earned runs in 4 innings, only had 2 strikeouts, and even his expected ERA indicates that he was bad. His expected ERA was 12 itself. So advanced metrics or not, eye test or not, he did not pitch well.
Yeah, there's no really, way to sugarcoat that. I mean, it was a bad outing. There's no way else to describe it. But I am not ready to write him off just yet. I need to see at least 1 or 2 more starts just to see if maybe that was just an outlier and he actually, can figure it out. At this point, you don't really have a choice. You got to run him out there. There's no one else. You're going to bring up Robleski? He's been terrible. Bobby Miller's been terrible. Landon Knack, we saw him tonight. Not very impressed by him. So there's really not a lot of options. And to me, given those names I just mentioned, I'll take a kind of over the hill Kershaw any day over those guys. So you got to kind of get behind him because there's really no other option. And I'm going to give him, because I think he's earned it at this point, the benefit of the doubt and see if maybe another start in another turn in the rotation, maybe even 2 more turns in the rotation to see if this is actually just him, his last go round where you're like, okay, it's time to hang it up because he can't get major league hitters out. But yeah, I was not impressed by what I saw from him in his first outing, but I'm not ready to kind of write him off just yet.
And it doesn't get any easier. It looks like he's lined up to pitch at the New York Mets. So that'll be a pretty tough, formidable opponent, NLCS rematch.
In New York, right?
Yeah, it's in New York. I guess I have to hold my thoughts overall on Kershaw because I'm not going to panic and overreact after one start. But needless to say, hopefully he proves me wrong. But one start in, I was not impressed. And I don't really have high hopes for him for the rest of the season. But let's hope, because we need Kershaw to give us something, because that performance against the Angels, that's going to be a loss every time out if that's what he's going to look like.
Yeah, I mean, nobody looked particularly good against the Angels, so it's hard to say that Kershaw was a glaring, bad part of that series because everybody was terrible.
Other than being available, is Dustin May someone you would trust to start for the Dodgers in a playoff game right now?
Based on what I've seen, probably not. But if the Dodgers, let's say they don't get the guys back that they need, Snell, Glasnow, Sasaki, let's say they don't, or they come back and they're not effective and they don't get someone good enough at the deadline. I mean, and May is available. I mean, those are so many ifs, right? Because May has a history of injuries, so he may not be long for this world anyway. So you might not even have to have this conversation because we're only in May. But yeah, I don't know if I could have him start a playoff game right now. Now here's the thing. It's like May has looked good. Like he's had good starts. Like it hasn't all been bad. It's just been kind of shaky recently. And he has an ERA close to 5 at this point, or maybe even over 5. I'm not sure. But
Like
to me, it's 4.5. Yeah, that's what I thought. So yeah, I mean, he does not look ready enough now, but I know the stuff. I mean, he has great stuff. It's just that it's just not working for him right now. And that's a huge problem. So to answer your question, like all things considered, if we had to start the playoffs right now, I don't know if I would trust May in a playoff start, but then again, we may not have a choice.
What's kind of shocking is his four-seam fastball has actually been his best pitch this season. He only throws it 16% of the time, but the opposition is hitting 087 against it with a 29% whiff rate. The sweeper has kind of been his main out pitch. Effective enough, but I just wanted to point out that his four-seam fastball has actually been pretty effective for Dustin May so far. So maybe they see that and they have him throw it a little bit more. He's usually a sinker guy, but mixing in that four-seamer, maybe it will do a little bit of wonders for May to get more out.
Look, he in his last outing, he gave up 4 runs in 5 innings, but he struck out 8. I mean, in the start before that, it was against Arizona. He went 6 2/3, so he got into the 7th inning, and he gave up 2 runs. I mean, that's a quality start. So among the starting pitchers that we have, he has been the most effective. You know what I mean? And all of this is relative, right? So I have a little bit more confidence in May than maybe you do and maybe others do, because he has been effective this year. It just hasn't been all that pretty, but he's had good starts. I mean, you can't deny that. So hopefully he can improve and maybe use that fastball a little bit more, given what you just said, and course correct. Again, we need him. We need him, and outside of that last Gonsolin outing, he's been pretty decent. I mean, he's had 3 starts, 2 against the Marlins, but he pitched really well against the Diamondbacks. So, I think that these guys we've seen them pitch well. So I have to give them the benefit of the doubt. I mean, they're all we have.
Of those 5 guys currently healthy and in the rotation, Yoshinobu Yamamoto is the only one I would trust in the playoffs for us.
Oh yeah, I mean, because Yoshinobu has been, I mean, he's going to be in the Cy Young conversation. He's been pretty great. So yeah.
All right, so let's get into the big story. It happened yesterday. I don't think the two of us were surprised because we were kind of ahead of the curve. We talked about it all offseason long that Chris Taylor's time with the Dodgers was at the end. And that's exactly what was the case Sunday afternoon when the Dodgers made the decision to release Chris Taylor in order to activate Tommy Edman off the injured list. And the main reason that the Dodgers decided it was time to release Chris Taylor was the awesome play from Ha-Seong Kim, who basically forced his way into the Dodgers lineup. And now they're saying as of this afternoon, they're going to try to give Kim 3 to 4 starts per week, which is the right move. I know he wasn't effective tonight. He was hitless, but Ha-Seong Kim overall has been just on fire. He's been an on-base machine, getting base hits left and right. So you can either start with Kim or Taylor. You can feel free to take it whichever direction you want.
Well, the thing I'm going to say about Ha-Seong Kim is that, and it's not going to happen, but I will continue to say it as long as he keeps putting up these numbers. This guy has to start every day. I don't care about what hand the pitcher throws with. This guy has to start. I mean, shit, we're starting Michael Conforto every day, and that guy can't hit anything. Like, what are we doing? At least Kim puts the ball in play and has the speed to beat out an infield single. Michael Conforto can't do that. Kim also is a really good defensive player. The fact that he was in center field tonight, I know that they're trying with that, but like, that's insane. Just put Tommy Edman out there for Christ's sake. or and I know they were giving Pages a day off, but like Conforto needs to ride the pine. He cannot continue to be in this lineup. And if you're going to put a lefty in there anyway against another lefty, it might as well be Hae-Sung Kim. I don't understand the thinking here. Otherwise, like, it's just insane to me. But I've been very impressed with Kim. Just his ability not only to, show that he has power, but he's got speed. He can steal bases. He can, get infield singles. He's a great defender. I mean, he's an all-around really good baseball player. The fact that he's not in the lineup every day is stupid. I mean, the fact that Miguel Rojas is taking at-bats away from Hae-Sung Kim should be a crime. Like, it's ridiculous. I don't understand it. No one can explain it to me. And it drives me crazy that he's not in the lineup every day. So that's that. But going over to Chris Taylor, I think we knew the writing was on the wall. He just didn't have it the past few seasons. And I know I've said this a few times, but the Dodgers caught lightning in a bottle with him. You saw what he was doing in Seattle before the Dodgers traded for him, which was literally nothing. I mean, he was a bench player. And when we traded for him, we kind of were thinking, what is this guy going to do? I mean, he's a utility player, but then they figured something out with him, and he ended up turning what looked like a pedestrian career into a memorable one for the Dodgers. He had a 792 OPS in the playoffs. He hit 9 home runs in the playoffs. Clutch play after clutch play. He won NLCS MVP in 2017. He made that ridiculous catch in Game 7 of the NLCS in 2018. He hit that walk-off home run in 2021 that you and I were there for, Kevin. So he had some memorable, remarkable moments for this Dodgers team. And unfortunately, the magic just kind of ran out. And that's okay, because the Dodgers got more out of him than I think any other team could have. And I think that he knows that, probably, that he owes his career to the Dodgers, because when he came over from Seattle, it didn't look like his career was really going anywhere. Then they unlocked something within him, and he put together a really solid major league career. Now, I don't know what's going to happen with him from here on out, but he just didn't provide enough production after he got that contract. It just wasn't worth it anymore, and they had to move on from him.
You got all the good stuff out there, so maybe I'll have some positive things to say about him after I bury him right now. But I'm going to feel like a dick for saying all this, but the Dodgers had needed to DFA Chris Taylor. At this point, he was bringing absolutely nothing to the table. It was to the point where they didn't even want to start him against left-handed starters because he was a negative asset offensively. Defensively, he wasn't really bringing much to the table either. They already had the versatility with a number of other guys. Thank God they brought back Kike Hernandez, because I don't know where we would be if we were starting Chris Taylor in those big games instead of Kike Hernandez, especially in the postseason last year. Amazing career for Chris Taylor, but ultimately he didn't live up to the contract. The Dodgers gave him that 4-year, $60 million contract. He peaked, unfortunately, right before that in 2021 when he had that all-star season where he hit that walk-off home run off Alex Reyes in the wild card game that you referenced, when he had that 3-home run night against the Atlanta Braves in an elimination game, Game 5, to extend the Dodgers to Game 6, where Max Scherzer would go on to quit and decide he didn't want to pitch. But needless to say, Chris Taylor was the reason that series was extended. And then from 2022 on, did the FanGraphs value calculation earlier this afternoon. They paid him $60 million. In return, Chris Taylor, over that 4 years, only put up about a $17 million total value performance. So the Dodgers, unfortunately, overpaid, if you're looking at it that way. If you want to look at it maybe picturesque whole thing, maybe the $60 million spread across his entire career ultimately was worth it, because prior to that contract, I don't think the Dodgers were paying Chris Taylor much at all, because he was probably on some rookie cheap flyer deal. So kind of evened out in the end. But if we're looking at that 4 years, Chris Taylor definitely didn't live up to the production and the expectations that they were expecting out of him when they gave him that contract, which is unfortunate. But this year was just rough. Negative half WAR, negative 0.5 WAR, hit 200.
I mean, he barely played.
He did barely play, but he hit 200 last season. He was hitting below 100 for a good chunk of the season. I think the only reason he got his batting average up to 200 was because they had a number of meaningless games against the Colorado Rockies at the end of the season. So he was kind of able to inflate his stats. But Chris Taylor wasn't a factor at all in the Dodgers playoff run last season. I don't think he had a single meaningful at-bat. The two previous years, they were so-so, but it's not worth diving into. But I'm just going to take my quick victory lap right now. You had shows led by Jeff Spiegel and Blake Williams, not lying, but kind of deceiving their listeners, saying that there was no chance in hell that the Dodgers were going to cut Chris Taylor, and they were kind of undermining the ability that Ha-Seong Kim had. And I think they were blinded by the reality that Chris Taylor and the Dodgers were heading for a divorce, and Ha-Seong Kim, Tommy Edman, Kike Hernandez, all are just better players, and the Dodgers had no regrets. I mean, no regrets doing this. And I think the first indication that the Dodgers kind of became assassins and a little more firm was when they DFA'd Jason Hayward last season. When the Dodgers DFA'd Jason Hayward last season, they were telling their locker room, "You've got to put up, or we're not going to just carry you on for the free ride." Then they did that with Austin Barnes, which we'll talk about in a second. Passes anymore. If you're not putting up production, the Dodgers front office isn't going to just let you sit around for the free ride.
Yeah. But I think, wouldn't you agree that Austin Barnes and Chris Taylor hung around maybe a season or two too long? You know, like it was time. I mean, they could have cut Barnes or Taylor at any point during the last 2 to 3 seasons, and they didn't. So I don't blame people for thinking that they're just going to hang on to these guys, because we're all looking at this and saying, wait a second, these guys aren't producing a lick, and yet they're hanging around. So maybe the assumption is that they'll just be here, and it's inevitable that they're going to be on the roster because they like these guys. I mean, especially with Barnes, because he was a quote unquote captain, clubhouse leader guy. Dave Roberts, as we know, loves his veterans. They've been with Dave Roberts as long as Dave Roberts has been with the team. So, you know, you kind of figured that maybe despite the fact that they weren't producing, that they would hang around. The fact that they got rid of Barnes and Taylor within like a week of each other was pretty shocking. I mean, they DFA'd Jason Hayward, but they didn't have that connection with Hayward like they had with Barnes and with Taylor. So it was quite shocking, even though we all kind of thought that was going to be the move, because you really can't, like, if they were to send Kim down, you really can't defend that by keeping these veterans on the team. Because if you're going to keep Barnes, Taylor, and Rojas on this roster and send guys like Kim or even Pages down, or, you know, I mean, there's no way to defend that. There's just no way. So they had to do something.
And they need the bat.
Yeah, they needed the bat. They needed production. So they had to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't shocked about Chris Taylor. I was a little shocked more so about Dalton Rushing getting called up, because I think more so myself, I was saying, why not call up Hunter Fiducia? But I love that they called up Dalton Rushing. But to kind of get to the point of why I was saying Fiducia was hammering home that Austin Barnes, again, was bringing nothing to the table. And we'd been calling for the Dodgers to DFA Austin Barnes for probably over a year now. And I think we both emphasized a lot that if they're moving in the direction where Will Smith needs to sit twice a week because they want to keep his body fresh, then you can't afford to have Austin Barnes in the lineup twice a week anymore, because he can't hit, he can't throw anyone out, he can't even barely defend at this point in his career. He literally adds nothing So I love the boldness that they're going with Dalton Rushing. And so far, he has rewarded them with the bat. He's already got a few base hits, a few clutch RBI knocks, and he's hitting the ball hard. He's already hit, I think, one ball for 112 miles per hour and then another one for like 110 miles per hour. So I love that the Dodgers are integrating one of their top prospects.
And here's the thing. There is more dead weight on this roster. Like Miguel Rojas, like he should be looking over his shoulder. Michael Conforto, I don't know what they're going to do with him. He can't hit at all. And his in his, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but his average with runners on base is disgusting. And he's hit into so many more double plays than anybody I've ever seen. So the only thing that I think is going to be maybe an issue for Dalton Rushing is playing time and at bats. And can he get enough at bats to stay fresh and to stay ready? Because as a backup catcher, you're not playing all that much. And I don't know if they're going to maybe run him out to left field. I know he's played out there in the minors to try and, develop some versatility. I don't know what his defense is like out there.
Be the plan if Conforto doesn't start hitting soon.
Yeah. But to me, it's like, if you got guys that are playing a lot, like Conforto, who's playing every day, and Rojas, who I think plays way too much, like you can't justify it when you've got guys on the bench that are producing more. You have to play those guys. You just have to, especially Kevin. We've just gone over the pitching staff and how injured they are. And the guys that they do have aren't really pitching well. You need all the runs you can get. The Dodgers offense has to win games by itself at this point. So you can't afford to have guys like Rojas and Conforto just gumming up the works. So that's just the reality of what's going on right now.
And Conforto's hitting 063 with runners in scoring position. I don't care that he's hitting the ball hard. He's not hitting the ball, period, for base hits. And that's ultimately what I want to see from a guy like Michael Conforto. He's been a big disappointment for the Dodgers so far. But I'll give it time. I'm giving him till early June, and then that's when I may call for his head. So he's got 2 more weeks in my book. But I got to go back to Austin Barnes real quick because I don't want to leave it on a negative note. There was a time where I was a big Austin Barnes fan, and I feel like his only supporter at a particular period in time, mostly in 2020, when I think it was me versus the world, and everyone thought I was nuts for saying that Austin Barnes should be catching big games for the Dodgers. But at that moment in time, I was right because I think Austin Barnes was the catcher for all 4 of the Dodgers World Series wins in 2020, and they were DHing Will Smith. And when they were down 3-1 to the Atlanta Braves, they had Austin Barnes catch a couple games. And I remember vividly that Walker Buehler attributed a lot to his success in that game to Austin Barnes helping him keep his composure in check and calling a good game. And of course, Clayton Kershaw was a big Austin Barnes fan as well. He was basically his primary catcher for a big chunk of time after they got rid of AJ Ellis. So there was a time when Austin Barnes did bring a lot of value. Of course, he had that big hit in Game 6 of the World Series where he knocked Blake Snell out of the game, and that sparked a Dodgers rally. So there were some highs. He took over in 2017. If people remember that, they benched Grandal, put in Austin Barnes, and he had a really good 2017 somehow. He was the only one to be able to thwart the Astros cheating scandal. Him and Alex Wood were the only ones to figure out how to change their signs in order to win a ball game in Houston. So Austin Barnes, like we talked about with Chris Taylor, had some big moments and some big contributions. He took Grandal's job from him in the playoffs. And when Will Smith was just coming on the scene, we noted that he wasn't that great of a defensive catcher yet. I mean, he's vastly improved and is one of the best catchers now in baseball and is specifically throwing runners out. But that wasn't always the case. And Austin Barnes was there to
catch some big games. He caught the final out of the 2020 World Series. So he had some big contributions, but at a certain point, it became very clear that he just could not contribute anymore. And what he brought to the table just was not there anymore.
Yeah. And the last comment I want to make, which is kind of miraculous. I know there was a little bit of a hiatus when he went to Boston, but it was after the 2014 season when the Dodgers traded D. Gordon to the Marlins, and they got back Austin Barnes, Miguel Rojas, Kike Hernandez, and then Andrew Heaney, who was flipped for Howie Kendrick, but then they brought Heaney back. I know that both Rojas and Kike didn't fulfill that entire tenure, but it's kind of cool to see that they kind of stuck around, even though it's been nearly a decade, especially Austin Barnes up till that point. Kike has become a big contributor. No one knew who Kike Hernandez was when they acquired him. And then, Miguel Rojas. Wait. They had that backwards. They traded D. Gordon and Miguel Rojas together. Now I'm blanking. But regardless.
I mean, the only thing Miguel Rojas has really done is he preserved Clayton Kershaw's no-hitter against the Rockies. Yeah. But other than that, he really hasn't contributed much to this team.
Yeah, I had that backwards. But regardless, Miguel Rojas came back to the Dodgers. No Name asking who had a better Dodger career, A.J. Ellis or Austin Barnes?
That is an interesting debate. I would go with Austin Barnes because clearly he meant more to this team when it mattered most than A.J. Ellis. I think A.J. Ellis was a good catcher and a solid catcher for a while. He obviously was Clayton Kershaw's best friend. He caught Kershaw's no-hitter. So he was a solid catcher, but I think in terms of big game contributions and when it mattered most, I'd have to go with Austin Barnes. Not even looking at the numbers, but just anecdotally.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's Austin Barnes, and I don't even think it's really that close. I mean, A.J. Ellis never led them to a World Series, and even just batter versus batter, I feel like Austin Barnes had some bigger playoff moments than A.J. Ellis, so I have to lean with Austin Barnes. I wanted to talk about a quick rumor real quick and then get back to whatever else we were supposed to cover tonight. But Bob Nightingale reported just a day ago that the Dodgers are one of the teams currently monitoring the availability of Rockies third baseman Ryan McMahon, which I kind of found a little interesting because why would the Dodgers even have interest in Ryan McMahon? So before I get into the stats, thoughts on Ryan McMahon?
I've always liked him. I know that he's kind of a Coors Field merchant, Kevin, because you brought up the stats to me the other day when I was maybe more high on him than I probably should have been. But I, think he's a really good third baseman defensively. He's not having that great of a year, though. He's only hitting 201 with 6 home runs and 11 RBIs. And I think you can get that amount of production from Max Muncy. And speaking of Max Muncy, he has hit a lot better recently. Ever since he put those glasses on, he's been seeing the ball a lot better. And over his last 7 games, he's hitting 250, which is a remarkable thing for him, with 2 home runs and 9 RBIs. And he's getting on base. He has a 367 on base percentage over that span. So I don't know about that one. I mean, unless Ryan McMahon can play another position, I don't really know why you would want him. And to me, if you're gonna upgrade at third base, you probably would want to go in the Nolan Arenado camp range. But I mean, is he really tearing the cover off the ball either? I don't know. It just seems kind of weird. But the Dodgers kind of check in on everybody. What do you make of it?
I don't get this one at all. Defensively, McMahon is really good, but offensively, you mentioned he's hitting 201. Why would we want to trade for someone hitting 201 for the Colorado Rockies, OPS below 700. The home road splits this season are just dreadful. He's hitting 156 with a 506 OPS away from Coors Field, and he strikes out a lot too. I mean, on the road, he's got 90 at bats, and he struck out 41.
What is he hitting at?
So
what is he hitting at Coors?
No surprise, he looks pretty good at Coors. He's hitting 261 with a 402 on base, 522 slugging, which is a 924 OPS, 5 home runs, 8 RBIs.
So 5 of his 6 home runs have come there.
So I just think about, you take him out of Coors and you put him at Dodger Stadium. He's going to be the equivalent of a Logan Forsythe or Brian Dozier for us. I don't understand anything with the Ryan McMahon situation at all. So hard pass. With like 15 minutes or so left, I think, in this show, we'll take some questions. So drop them below in the chat. Ask us anything. I know that the Dodgers pitching has been very frustrating. So if you want us to focus a little bit on more of the Dodgers pitching, I did want to bring up a team stat, which we didn't get to, but there's 30 teams in Major League Baseball, of course, and the Dodgers are currently 22nd. I think that was entering tonight. So they probably fall into 23, or maybe even, they've probably fallen to 23, but they're 22nd out of 30 in team ERA. They've got a 4.28 ERA now in the 2025 season. The whip is disgusting too. They've got a 1.3 team whip. So it's been a rough scene for the Dodgers.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason they're winning games is because of this offense. It's the pitching has been just absolutely mind-numbing. It's like they can't keep a lead, and the other part that is just the most, I think, the most maddening thing about this is that they are literally going to the bat rack for the first time, already losing a lot. They do that. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but I've watched enough games this year to be like, Jesus, we're losing again. We're down 3-0 already, and we couldn't even swing the bat yet. So it is a I don't know what our ERA is like in the first inning, but I bet it's like 7 or something.
I could look it up, but save it for another time. We do got some questions in a second. But I did want to quickly focus on another Bob Nightingale report. He reported, this is just scouts' opinions, doesn't mean it's factual, but in his USA Today article, he wrote that a few scouts had mentioned to him that when they were scouting Roki Sasaki in the offseason, they felt he was pitching injured. I'm going to pass this over to you. Do you think that the Dodgers or Roki Sasaki and maybe his training staff had kind of been downplaying his health since he's put on a Dodgers uniform?
I mean, it's possible, but with the Dodgers' track record of keeping pitchers healthy, I don't think it matters. I really don't think it matters, because Blake Snell, as we've documented, was one of the most durable pitchers of anybody of his era. You know, always available, always 200 innings a year. I mean, just a solid guy, Cy Young Award winner. And he pitches, 3 or 4 starts for us, and he's cooked. So maybe, I mean, certainly the question that Sasaki asked of all of the teams he met with was, how do I gain speed on my fastball? And the Dodgers looked at that and said, we don't know, but we can make it slower, and we can injure you. So come on over. I don't know what happened, but certainly maybe something was missed, but I don't think it matters, because this team just cannot keep anyone healthy on the mound.
I will say that something didn't add up with Roki Sasaki in that velocity diminishing, and even the reports that came from Japan that there were some suggestions that maybe he needed Tommy John surgery or some type of elbow surgery. I don't know. It's a
I
little
fucking had it
concerning.
with this shit. I just have. It's so annoying. It's like the Dodgers have to win despite this shit, and it is just annoying.
I still have faith that he'll have a great career and he could be a contributor in the second half, but Roki Sasaki needs to probably have a fake rehab stint in the minors, which I think is exactly what's going to happen. They'll send him down to AAA to rehab for 3 or 4 outings and see if he can get his shit together. So we got some questions. No Name, are you guys worried? Because he is.
No, I'm not worried. I mean, as pissed off as I am with what I'm watching on the mound recently, or all season rather, I'm not worried. This team is good enough to beat any team at any point, and the Dodgers I don't believe will continue to be this bad pitching wise. They're going to get guys back. They're going to make a trade at the deadline. They're going to find a way to win ball games. So I am not worried overall, but they better do something about this. They have to, they can't just sit here and sit idly by. I think Dave Roberts had a quote the other day where they're kind of looking at the schedule and they're looking at how injured the pitching staff is. And he's like, I guess we'll see what happens. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it could, so it is quite daunting when you look at it from that perspective, but am I worried? I don't think so. I mean, the team is in first place. So despite all of this, so all they need is a few more pitchers to come back and they'll be fine. But like I said, if this is like, we're in May right now, if this is the case in September, then I'll start to worry. But right now I'm not.
If this is our starting staff in October, I'm absolutely worried. But I think right now, a lot of these injuries are a blessing in disguise. I don't need Tyler Glasnow pitching in May. I don't need Tyler Glasnow pitching in June, to be honest. If Blake Snell is going to be perfectly healthy for the second half and do kind of what he did for the Giants last year, I'll take it. I think the less innings that these guys throw, honestly, is better. Because
that is a silver lining here.
Yeah, if they pitch a full season, odds are they're going to need a shoulder surgery or a Tommy John surgery. So keep them off the field as long as possible, as long as they're within reach of first place and they can make a second half push. I can live with what's going on right now. Next question from Bacon Tree. Are the Dodgers this stubborn in playing Conforto every day? You would have a much better lineup with Paez, Teo, and Tommy Kike in the outfield.
I think it has everything to do with the fact that Conforto is a veteran outfielder that they signed to a very lucrative 1-year deal. And so Dave Roberts said as much. They're going to give him every opportunity possible to hit himself out of this season-long slump. But it doesn't give me any I've not seen anything that would give me confidence that that's going to occur. Now, you said that you're going to, give him till June before you start calling for his head, which, okay, let's see. Let's see if we can get to June and he can figure it out. But during this time, I just feel like with how injured the pitching staff is, they've got to beef up the offense as much as possible. And he is a big automatic out right now, especially with runners on base. So to me, it's like, and Joe Davis said tonight during the broadcast that Conforto hasn't gotten a hit with a runner on base since March. That's a problem.
I don't think he has an RBI since April 5th.
Yeah, that is a huge problem when his defense, his speed, and everything else does not warrant him being in the lineup every day. So if it were up to me, I'd sit him for a few days, ride the pine, because playing him is not helping.
So here's the future. After this Arizona series, they've got 3 games at New York. They've got 3 games at Cleveland. Then at the very end of May, they've got a 3-game series with the Yankees. And then they've got a 4-game series against the New York Mets. those are some very tough matchups, but at the same time, those are some very great opportunities for Michael Conforto to have himself a series in one of those matchups and flip the switch and all of a sudden have a lot of Dodgers fans have faith in him. If he goes off against the Yankees or if he goes off against the Mets, I know we don't have any reason to believe that he will, but let's just say he does. That might be enough momentum for him to have a good stretch the rest of the way.
Yeah. I mean, I hope you're right.
So,
I've seen nothing. I've seen nothing to indicate that that's going to happen, but I hope you're right.
yeah, so we'll see what happens. Next question from Jose. Why don't the Dodgers and Roberts try playing small ball? It might be a good option. Is this you, Jake? Are you asking this question?
Yeah, because I'm going under the name of Jose on my own show to make comments. No, I'm a big small ball fan. I've always been that way, and I've advocated for the likes of Austin Barnes whenever he starts or when he did start to use him like a pitcher and bunt. I mean, he's actually a pretty decent bunter. But that's just not what they're going to do. And to be honest, they don't really need to do it. They score runs, whether it's a home run and they've been scoring runs other ways too. Sack flies. They've been moving runners over, productive outs, hitting with runners in scoring position. This team does that. That's not a problem right now. And but my point to having Ha-Seong Kim start every day is to Jose's point right here, which is he does play small ball. He shortens up, slaps the ball, hits the ball on the ground, that steals bases. That's why they need him in the lineup every day. He's a player that the Dodgers don't have anywhere else on the roster besides Shohei Ohtani, but Shohei Ohtani doesn't play defense. So they don't have a guy like Ha-Seong Kim anywhere else. And so that's why I'm like, while he's hot, put him in every day. That's my argument for him.
Yeah, it's just hard to expect the Dodgers to play small ball based off who's on the roster. And
yeah,
small ball is just not really a thing anymore in general. Like most teams do not play small ball. Like if you're bunting, that probably means you're not a good hitter. Like Shohei Ohtani is never going to bunt. I would be shocked if they ever had Shohei Ohtani bunt in a game. He's the most prolific hitter in the sport, leads all of baseball right now with 17 home runs. He's going to try to hit a home run or a double every time he's up there. Same goes for Mookie. Same goes for Freddie Freeman, who we've just been enamored with and talk him up every time. Maybe the best pure hitter in the sport. Muncie's not a small ball guy. Edman maybe could play some small ball. He's got that kind of scrappiness to him, but Conforto can't do anything. James Outman will never be a small ball guy. Thank God they sent him down. And Miguel Rojas, you don't want him in the lineup, but he'd be your other small ball option.
Yeah, but he has no speed, so.
All right. Well, I think we are good in terms of everything we needed to cover. If there's anything, Jake, you wanted to get off your chest or throw out there real quick, we've got a few more minutes. Trying to think if I'm blanking on anything. But.
Yeah, I mean, I think we pretty much covered all of it. And yeah, I don't really have anything else to add. I mean, this is going to be a tough stretch for the Dodgers, and they're going to face some high-level competition. And the pitching staff does not give me any confidence that they're going to go and win the majority of these upcoming games. But I hope that I'm wrong, and I think this team is good enough to win games as it's currently constructed, because they've certainly shown that during stretches. But there's been some real peaks and valleys with this team already this year. And they started off 8-0 and then they dipped, and then they went to 7-0. Now they've dipped again. So it has been a kind of roller coaster season so far, but they could catch fire at any time. I mean, this team is that good and that talented.
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of quickly recap for my final thoughts, some of the bullshit we've been dealing with. Ryan Lotus, I know it's 1 inning, 18 ERA. Bobby Miller, 18 ERA. Yandre Gomez, 14.54 ERA. JP Fireeisen, 13.5 ERA. Clayton Kershaw, 11 ERA. Noah Davis, 10 ERA. Justin Robleski, ERA. Landon Knack, 6.17 ERA. Roki Sasaki, 4.72 ERA. Luis Garcia, 4.57 ERA. And finally, Tyler Glasnow, 4.50 ERA. A lot of names in there, some that you would expect to be crappy, I guess, but then some others like Tyler Glasnow, 4.50 ERA, with what they're paying him, that's just not acceptable.
Yeah.
All right, well, I think that's it. That was
that's all I got for you, Kevin.
Very frustrating pitching night. Dodgers lose once again, 4 losses in a row, but we appreciate everyone tuning in tonight to the Incline Dodgers podcast. And if you're listening on the audio feed, we appreciate your guys' support. You can always leave us a review or give us a subscription bonus. And thank you guys for listening. And let's hope the Dodgers turn it around. It's only Monday, May 19th. So there's plenty more time for